Hi, my name is Kate Eicher, and this presentation is about finding the Mexican immigrant and migrant farm worker families in diverse children's literature and public library youth services. While this presentation focuses on a unique client group, the goal is to seek out best practices that can also apply to other client groups. Suggestions and resources for providing culturally competent youth services and youth collections that include the Mexican migrant farm worker population, as well as other Mexican immigrant, Mexican American, and Mexican experiences are encouraged. Our recent political and social climate has brought forth issues that could result in libraries self-censoring in order to avoid conflict. Additionally, these client groups may be too fearful of social or legal ramifications linked to seeking out services, or they may not even be aware of what is available to them. That could be due to several reasons, including lack of library outreach, lack of transportation, or a language barrier. In order to get a balanced inclusion of distinct client groups, library professionals need to know and evaluate encompassing terms for those populations. As you can see in this diagram, the client groups discussed here fall under the terms Latino and Hispanic, and that those are of any race. According to the Pew Research Center's analysis of a 2014 American Community Survey, it was found that more than 2/3 of young Hispanics in America are of Mexican origin. As youth services looks not only at the youth but also their parents, they must consider approaching this large client population with cultural competence. It has been found that professionals working in youth services are more comfortable considering other aspects of youth development over culture, more likely to consider economic struggles rather than racial or cultural struggles. Hence the need for professional standards and guidelines regarding cultural barriers. Many applicable standards fall under the ALSC's competencies for librarians, commitment to client group. For instance, demonstrates respect for diversity and inclusion of cultural values, and continually develops cultural awareness and understanding of self and others, cultivates an environment for enjoyable and convenient use of library resources, specifically removing barriers to access presented by socioeconomic circumstances, culture, privilege, language, gender, ability, and other diversities. Additionally, RUSA has a full set of professional guidelines for library services to Spanish-speaking library users. Particularly relevant is Guideline 223. The Spanish-speaking populations served may consist of a mix of economic and social factors that combine for a very diverse culture. Each represented culture must be considered in the development of programming and should be accurately reflected in the program content. In considering children's literature, diversifying the metaphors we read by includes taking into account white privilege. Thomas wrote, "If today's children grow up with literature that is multicultural, diverse, and decolonized, we can begin the work of healing our nation and world through humanizing stories." Thomas also lists many helpful critical questions to consider when evaluating children's literature. For example, what or whose view of the world or kinds of behaviors are presented as normal by the text? In 2012, 4 shifts in representation were identified in promising texts. These shifts can serve as a platform for understanding and investigating our shared experiences. As professionals go on to evaluate diverse children's literature, these shifts should be sought out. A noted example of a book that highlights the similarities and intricate links between both the U.S. and Mexico is Denied, Detained, Deported by Bossum. This quote from Yu Lee clearly states the struggle that youth library professionals are up against when evaluating literature that includes these client groups. Latino picture books have a big job. They must simultaneously present a Latino culture to other Latino cultures and to non-Latinos as well, transmitting insider knowledge and acquainting outsiders with a new and different culture. In a study done in 2014 of 15 Hispanic American titles chosen to be evaluated for cultural authenticity, 3 books specifically identified Mexican heritage. It can be difficult to identify specific cultures when only the terms Latino or Hispanic are used. While some stereotypical elements were found present in selected texts and illustrations, it was found that it did not hinder cultural authenticity. This does not mean, however, that professionals should not still assess for potentially damaging stereotypes found in children's literature. In 2016, Goldsmith wrote that international literature could be the missing link in diversifying collections. Suggestions for international youth literature include the International Children's Digital Library, Worlds of Words, and the International Youth Library. The International Children's Digital Library has books from Mexico, but note that they are currently all only in Spanish, despite having the ability of reading the book descriptions in English. In order to get information and services to migrant workers, Peterson found that the best strategy was to either have a physical location where they live or bring resources to them via a bookmobile. Also, library professionals should be flexible about policies, especially regarding library cards or items that go unreturned. A model of service can be found in the award-winning program created at the Pinewoods Library and Community Learning Center in Athens, Georgia. This program emphasizes the need to build strong community partnerships, set clear goals, and build community awareness. This program also addressed language by involving native speakers in community organizations, offered conversational Spanish classes to all staff, and translated signage and brochures. A familiar family literacy program is Children's Day, Book Day, often called DIA, and is often celebrated year-round. There are many resources available for professionals, including through Reforma and the Texas State Library and Archives Commission regarding the program DIA. Please note the many online resources that support the goals of this presentation. In these sites, you can find more information about these client groups, professional standards, diverse children's literature, and successful culturally competent library programs and services. Library professionals must continue to seek out culturally competent best practices for all client groups. And remember that there are many specific groups that can become overlooked, such as the Mexican immigrant and migrant farm worker population, when looking at Latino or Hispanic children's literature and youth services. Thank you for your time.